Hello, my name is Shreya Devadantam, and today we're going to be doing the challenge for Wakafood Create Task. And with this challenge, of course, we're going to go into the preliminaries and say that we have to be using the materials provided by the Create with Code website instead of downloading from the asset store as represented in previous challenges. And we're going to go through this entire challenge and actually explain what each of these things are, including the bonuses when we get the chance. Alright, let's go ahead. So the first thing that you want to do is, of course, download the materials. I've already actually installed it and saved it to a folder. You can choose the folder of your belonging, but let's go to my folder. So of course we're in Unit 5 right now, and there you go, our starter files. With this in mind, it also should be referenced that you should have some sort of pre-existing knowledge for this challenge task, as I'm not going to go ahead and explain each aspect of what to do and what not to do. Of course, we're going to create a new challenge here, or sorry, a new environment here, a new project. I'm going to call this Unit 5, as well as save this to Unit 5 folder here. And let's click Create. Generally, whenever you do have these create with code tasks, they do have an example of what to do here. They have general instructions and stuff to follow through. And I could just say that we could mark off these two areas. Once this Unity environment has opened up, we can now go ahead and click on Assets, and as usual, Import Package and Custom Package. We want to go ahead and relocate ourselves over to our folder where we stored our Unit 5 or Challenge 5 starter files and import this Unity package. It should give you a prompt of everything you want to import, and yes, you click on All and then Import. There you go. Once completed, go ahead and click on Scenes and Sample Scene. Oh my, pardon me. Sorry, Challenge 5 and then Challenge 5 scene. There we go. And go ahead and import if anything does seem to be the problem. We can close out this. Let's go ahead and take a look around in our Unity world. We seem to be actually dealing with some sort of a 2D space in our Unity world, and of course it also seems to be missing some sort of background environment. But I guess that's going to be the focus for today's Unity Create Task Challenge 5. Seems to be we're working with some sort of application that might fill in these four areas. If we go ahead and run this now, let's see if we can spot any errors already. Alright. I prefer for the text to be a bit larger, but let's go ahead and do easy. And we seem to be having to click all these foods in order to get points or keep on passing through the level. However, it's already too fast. I thought this was supposed to be easy. That has to be some sort of bug that already exists. It seems like the foods themselves are actually disappearing, which is extremely good. And let's check the skulls out for a second. I think the skulls may be what makes us lose points. There we go. Yeah, we don't seem to have anything about skulls. So let's see what the game wants us to do. So it says the difficult buttons look a bit messy. Center the text on buttons horizontally and vertically. Alright, let's go ahead and do that. So we imported something called Text Mesh Pro. Let's take a look and see where on our canvas do we have these. Correct, right here. Alright, so in order to center them, we could actually go ahead to the title screen. We could see these three buttons that are obviously wrong and go ahead, center them accordingly here. Let's do that to the medium button. Let's do that to the hard button. Okay, let's see the launch of this game now. Let's see if it seems approximately correct. Wow, that's a big difference than what we had before. Before we had the easy button, easy text here, over to the right, the medium text over to the left, and the hard button over to the right again. So now that we see that centered, it seems a bit more aesthetic, a bit more pleasing to the eyes. We can now mark this done. The food is being destroyed too soon. That was something we did actually figure out. It says the food should only be destroyed once a player clicks on it, not when the mouse touches it. Oh, that seems to be a huge flaw in the game. I thought this was a point-based system, but apparently not. We need to be able to actually go back and see what the problem is in our environment. So if we go ahead to the script section, there seems to be a couple of text where it says destroy game object, difficulty button, game manager, and we could scroll through on our right panel and just kind of skim through the code to see what is the problem here. If we go ahead to our target, this also seems to be where we want our code to exist. Here we go. So on the mouse enter, it says if the game is active, then destroy the object and update the score as well as explode. Alright, so, mouse enter. If we actually scroll through the Unity documentation, there is another existence of on mouse, but instead of enter, we want mouse down, which is when we do click on it. Let's pull up the documentation. Here we go. So on the chance that the user has pressed the mouse button over the collider, it would initialize this event, which is exactly what we want. So let's go ahead and fix that in our target script. So again, I'm going to be using an application called CLion. Rider. So Rider is a JetBrains IDE for using scripts such as like C# or sometimes C or sometimes C++. You may also use CLion or Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio, whatever you may like. Again, we're going to scroll back over to on mouse enter, and instead of the mouse enter, which is when it enters a screen, we actually want it to be down. Alright, now let's save this and go back to our Unity environment and run the application again. So on first attempt, we should have all these existing. Alright, so now they're not exploding, but let's see what happens when we do click on it. There you go. So it seems to be going a bit more smoothly, which is perfect for what we do want. There you go, game over. Let's go back to the third option. So we can say that number 4, the food is being destroyed too soon, is completed. That makes 3 and 4 now done. Let's go ahead to number 5. It says the score is being replaced by the word score. It should always say score with a value displayed after the score, colon. Okay, let's check this out. So if we pull up the canvas and click on score text, we have the implementation of score here, but where is the score updater? See if on canvas again. It seems to be that the score is actually being updated by a third-party script instead of being directly onto this this area. So we're gonna have to look through the script again to see what is being updated by score. Generally, there's easier ways in the code to figure this out. If we go to Game Manager, we're able to tell what is the score text, but it's not always wrong to check in your scripts itself. But when you get to bigger projects, you want to make sure that you have a specific section for updating each of these elements to make it easier for the debugger to debug your code or your project. So we can see here in our Game Manager X, it's saying it's updating score text and the game over text and the title screen. So let's go ahead to our Game Manager X. So if we scroll down our Game Manager text, we should see something with the score here. So it says update score and it adds a value to the score. But now it's not setting the text of score to the value of score. Let's go ahead and check out our problem again. It's saying it's updating the score with the lowercase equivalent of score. Isn't that what our code is doing right here? Let's go ahead and actually change this again. Let's say score colon space and then add the actual value of score as an integer, which is represented right here. So with this in mind, let's go ahead, save it, and go back into the Unity environment. And let's see if the score text does change over time. Score is a bit hidden here, but I think it only depends on the monitor itself. So if we take a look to our right, it does give us actual score values, which is perfectly what we wanted. So we can now go back to our website and say that number 5 is completed. Number 6, it says when you lose, there's no way to actually restart. Make the restart button appear over the game over screen. Let's go back to our script. I think I saw something about restart game right here. Okay, so in our game over script, we must actually have a way to access the restart game script. If we go ahead and search for restart game, we're only able to see one instance of it, meaning that it's a possibility that restart game is not being referenced anywhere within this code at the minimum, and perhaps this project. But we see that there's a game over script which is being run actively whenever we do restart, whenever we do lose the game. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go ahead, set this up. So whenever the game is over, let's show you what the restart button does. It says set active is false. That's wrong. Don't we want this to be true once the game is over? We want to make sure that the restart button actually shows itself once the game is over. And now let's go ahead, run our program once again and see if we made any changes. I'm going to purposely lose here. There we go. Now our restart button actually shows itself. And if we go ahead and see, it successfully implements our values. There we go. And as you see, our score is being updated as well. There we go. We can now mark that as complete. And number 7, the difficulty buttons don't change the difficulty. The spawn rate is always too fast. When you click easy, it should be slower. When you click hard, it should be faster. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at our code once again. So if we scroll up here, it says the spawn rate is equal to, the spawn rate is always divided by 5. Our spawn rate is already set to a float value of 1.5, but maybe we have to change that. Let's go ahead, actually set this to 2 different values. So, or a different value. So what we want to do here is have a new value within our start game called int difficulty. And we want to set this over to difficulty. And then let's see where else our code is being referenced. Alright, let's go back to our Unity environment, and there seems to be a difficulty button here, and it says Game Manager Start Game. And as you see, we're missing a value, therefore our IDE indicates there is an error. So let's actually see the difficulty, which is referenced here. Since it's grayed out, that means it's not being called anywhere within this game. But go ahead, put that in here. And let's run our program now. So let's see if our easy game is a bit more slower. Alright, it's working. And if I go ahead and restart the game, let's try the hard option, which is perfectly on task. Okay, so now that we know that the easy and difficult buttons are working, or easy and hard buttons are working, let's go ahead back to our website and say we can now mark this as completed. Bonus, the game can go on forever. Add a timer that counts down from 60 to whole numbers and triggers the game sequence until it reaches 0. Okay, let's go ahead back to our Game Manager script. So in our start game, we could actually have a new variable called, we can now set a new variable here called private time, or private we could actually set this, think about this actually conceptually. So let's go over to our canvas and let's actually make a new script here, or a new text. Timer. Timer. Text. Alright. And then let's set the location of this timer text. Copy. Values. Alright. And let's go back to our code. We can now set private text mesh pro UGUI and timer. And we could say back to our game manager. Let's make this public. There we go. And we can bring this into here. Let's set a new value. So time public private int time left. We're gonna say time left equals 60. And let's add an update. If this game active, then time left gets subtracted by time.delta time. And then we want to set timer.setText over to timer plus math f dot round time left. And if time left is less than 0, then we want to initiate the game over sequence. Alright, let's set this now. Let's make this 400. There we go. So now it's setting time, and it's going down at a good pace. Which is perfect for us. So we're at 59, 60. And now that we fixed that, we can now say that our challenge task is now over.